So, Leute, hier sind wir wieder. Und ja, jetzt werden wir mal in den nächsten Stock aufsteigen. Wird wahrscheinlich jetzt hier oben das letzte gewesen sein. Nee, doch nicht. Okay. Ne, hier gehen wir einfach mal so durch.
I don't see what the fuss is about a blasted lab coat. Are you new here? Okay. Mind that. Something? Something's not right.
Ist ja ein Soldat.
No prisoners! Gotta get down! I'll make you company ammo! What?
Hold it. Something about you doesn't look right. No. Odd.
Keep your shoulders up. Company ammo.
Ja, holen wir die auch noch schnell weg.
Evaluation is sterling. Scoured with prejudice.
So hat keiner gesehen. Somit ist dieses auch abgeschlossen.
Difficult job ahead? Consider equipping a pack of Sam's special solvent stain-out remover. It's ruthless on residual blood splatter.
So, sind wir also ganz oben.
Captain, you have an uncanny talent for complicating my life.
Oh,
You've
oh.
disrupted the balance of power. You've upset the natural order of things. I'm afraid I can't. You have a flair for subtlety. If you'd worked for me, you would have been the greatest fixer Halcyon has ever seen. For all your talents, you are the enemy of Halcyon, and therefore you are my enemy. You make a nuanced and compelling argument. Here's my... Dr. Wells is being held in my custody. All that's
Yeah.
left to do is put down this riot, arrest you, and then get on with the bloody business of saving this colony. Fair enough. I'm giving you exactly one chance to parley with me. Interesting that you think I'm going to die here. I believe I'm more than capable of taking you on. Fair point. I've devoted my entire life to protecting Halcyon. I'm not afraid to die in the line of duty. There isn't much of a board left, thanks to you. You were always an unknown variable. I tried to recruit you, but this...
Okay, leider haben wir dafür die Fähigkeiten nicht. Das ist RAM. Es ist kein Sam, es ist RAM. Okay. Dann seid ihr alle bereit? Ist alles nachgeladen. Mir raten, hier komme ich auch nicht rein. Nö. Aber vielleicht, wenn ich was trinke. einfach. Mal gucken, wo es hier oben lang geht.
Hey, that's impressive. Left hand, Captain.
Okay, Heckfähigkeit ist schwierig, weil ich müsste aufschließen mit 100.
Sanitation incoming.
Okay, das ist hart.
Clearly is this unit's middle name. Sam cleans it up.
Sehr klar. Ich habe beide verloren. Wo soll denn wissen, dass hier auf einmal so 200.000, was weiß ich, was kommt? Wir gehen erstmal weiter, mal gucken, was hier noch kommt. Ui.
Why don't you just...
So einfach.
Get me out of here!
Oh. Da haben wir es, theoretisch.
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You did the right thing. Akande was a monster. Her death was much deserved, and long overdue. And you lunatic, you broke into the board's own fortress just to rescue one doddering old man. You are absolutely out of your mind, and I can't begin to thank you enough. I'm all right, thanks to you. Akande wanted my cooperation. I'm quite sure she would have beaten it out of me if you hadn't arrived. You've broken the board's stranglehold on this colony, and you saved my life. But there's still so much we have yet to accomplish. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save Halcyon. I'm afraid the situation is far worse than any of us ever. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. There's been no communication, no signals, nothing. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back to Earth. We don't know what they discovered when they arrived, or if they arrived at all. We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Halcyon? We can't rely on Earth for support anymore. We've been cut loose. We're entirely on our own. Yes, you're right. The road is long, and we haven't a moment to waste. We must begin the revival process immediately, starting with the Hope's brightest minds, and then we're going to fix this damn colony, one problem at a time. We're going to need a leader, and I can't imagine a better person for the job than you. What do you say, old friend? Will you help us?
Mehr so vorstellen als ich, okay.
The chairman? I don't know why you let that heartless creature live, but I'll have to trust your judgment. When I revived you, I thought we were going to save this colony all by ourselves, but I was wrong. We can't save Halcyon on our own. We're all going to have to pull together, somehow. We are not a colony anymore. Our last connection to Earth has been severed. I don't know if we'll survive, but we're going to have to try our best.
Okay. Das war's? Nichts irgendwie, was? Chaos und Tartarus.
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists: engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Sanjar's civil liberties and worker-centric policies were slow to catch on with the other corporations. But as Halcyon began its long, arduous journey toward recovery, many of Terra 2's smaller townships started adopting MSI's alternative corporate structure, and eventually became entirely self-sufficient. In the coming years, many of these townships managed to eke by, where otherwise they might have starved. Consumed by paranoia, Lilia Hagen took Sublight Salvage in a controversial direction, openly accusing board officials of an extraterrestrial conspiracy. One day, an accident at the Groundbreaker's docking bay silenced her forever. Time would tell if her replacement could keep the Sublight family together. Adelaide McDevitt replaced Reed Thompson as the leader of Edgewater. She and her followers transformed Edgewater in their image. Anyone loyal to Reed was pressured into leaving town, and those who stayed behind adapted to her way of life. Adelaide transformed the old cannery into a new garden. The nearby Edgewater Cemetery provided a convenient source of fertilizer. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers, schooled in her family's traditions. The future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time indeed. Your influence shifted Ellie's perspective. She finally admitted, albeit grudgingly, that she just might need other people. Sometimes. With a steady income from the life insurance payouts, she was finally able to afford a ship of her own. She hired a small crew and flew supply missions to communities on the fringe.
Jetzt mal gucken, ob meine Private und mein Sam dabei sind.
Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was
Nein,
labor to be
Sam
done,
und Private
he
sind
was
ja
there
echt
to
gerade
help.
gestorben.
Eventually, Felix realized
gucken.
that the work of a revolution was done with two hands. As much as he enjoyed his adventures aboard the Unreliable, the vicar, known as Max, eventually decided that it was time to move on, to live out the life he had sought so long to create. He knew there were many in the colony who carried burdens much worse than the ones he had struggled with, and he devoted himself to easing their suffering wherever he could. He only ever took up arms again to defend the defenseless. Unshackled from a lifetime of striving and fighting the universe and himself, Vicar Maximilian de Soto was finally at peace. Parvati didn't survive her adventure with you. Nyoka returned to Monarch to take another crack at making a
Private
permanent life for
hat nicht
herself.
überlebt,
She
okay.
formed the Charon Group, an
Gut.
MSI subsidiary of ragtag survivalists and wilderness experts. Anyone in need of a guide, or just looking to throw back a beer and swap stories,
Das wäre die einzigste, wo
could
ich nochmal
find her
interessant
camping on the
wäre, das zu
trail
sehen. Ne?
or clearing an infestation. Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. Chairman Rockwell served as the public face for the changes in Halcyon to come. Whenever you needed strings pulled or a voice to sell a policy change, Rockwell was only too happy to oblige. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. Though he was always haunted by the failures of his past, he was determined to make things right by building toward the future. The revival project was hard and painful work, but in the end, despite limited resources, over half the Hope's colonists were successfully revived. Even after Wells passed away, the Hope scientists and engineers worked night and day to pull Halcyon from the brink of collapse. Their efforts continue to this day, which may be reason enough for optimism. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later. His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Life will never be the same in Halcyon. It is widely agreed that the colony has a chance of stabilizing within a generation, owing to the hard work and determination of the surviving colonists. Recovery is a distant goal, and the path is long and uncertain. But the people of Halcyon carry on, determined as ever. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? You brought an end to the chaos on Tartarus, and made Chairman Rockwell your own puppet, a role he was all too eager to play. The colony never realized you were the true power behind the new administration. By acting vicariously through agents and third parties, you controlled Halcyon from the shadows. As a result, Halcyon survived the turbulent years that were to follow. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.
Wir haben es geschafft. Ja. So Leute, das war schon mal das Ende, so wie ich es gespielt habe. Es kommt nochmal von dem Ende nochmal eine andere Fassung, in dem ich sage, ich bin der Chef. Dann könnt ihr das mal alles mal angucken. Am besten mit Private. Parvati, die ist ja jetzt gestorben und Sam genauso. Das könnt ihr dann nochmal sehen. Und natürlich kommen jetzt die ganzen optionalen, zum Beispiel wo hätten wir uns anders entschieden. Wir retten jetzt Edgewater, wir zerstören Edgewater. Wir verraten Phoenix. Dieses kommt jetzt alles in den nächsten Videos. Viel Spaß dabei, falls ihr die Trophäen noch haben wollt oder die optionalen Enden sehen wollt. kommen als Nachvideos, werden auch so benannt sein. Und das Fazit gibt natürlich ja ganz am Ende dann, wie ich das Spiel, was ich vom Spiel halte und alles. Das kommt noch zum Ende. Also, macht's gut, Leute. Bis zum nächsten Mal.